Growing up in Austin, Texas, I learned early that being the disappointing son was my assigned role in the family narrative. My brother Chase was 3 years older, 6'2" by age 17, star linebacker, business school graduate, everything my parents wanted in a firstborn son. I was Derek. 5'9", glasses since age 8, more interested in books than football, the son my father introduced with an apologetic shrug. This is Derek. He's different. Different meant wrong. Different meant less. Chase got a brand new Ford F-150 for his 16th birthday. I got Chase's old Honda with 140,000 miles. Chase's college graduation was a weekend celebration in Dallas. Mine was dinner at Chili's with my parents checking their phones the whole time. Derek just doesn't have Chase's drive, Mom would explain to relatives as if my quietness was a character flaw that needed constant apologizing for. Our family's wealth came from my parents' rental property investments. Mom and Dad had bought their first duplex in Austin in 1992 for $87,000. By 2000 they owned 4 properties. By 2010 they owned 7. By 2018, they owned 10 rental properties scattered across Austin, Round Rock, and Cedar Park. Nothing fancy. Mostly single-family homes and small multi-unit buildings in working-class neighborhoods that gentrified around them. But by 2018, that portfolio was worth approximately $4.1 million, generating about $17,000 monthly in rental income. Chase always assumed they'd be his. Dad's grooming me to take over the portfolio, he'd announce at every family gathering. I'm learning the business from the ground up. When the time comes, I'll expand it into a real empire. Chase was 32, worked in commercial real estate sales making about $95,000 a year, and lived like he made $300,000. Luxury apartment downtown, leased BMW, expensive suits, constantly buying rounds at bars to maintain his image as a successful real estate professional. My parents thought he was brilliant. I was 29, worked as a software engineer for a healthcare tech company, and lived quietly in a modest apartment in North Austin. I made $82,000 a year, drove a sensible Toyota, wore jeans and t-shirts, and had no social media presence whatsoever. Derek does something with computers, Dad would say dismissively when people asked about me. Not with pride. Just with the vague acknowledgement that I existed somewhere in Chase's shadow. My relationship with my parents had always been strained. They didn't understand my career. They didn't understand why I wasn't more ambitious. They didn't understand why I chose to be quiet when Chase was so confidently loud. But my relationship with my grandmother, Dad's mother, was completely different. Grandma Ruth visited from Dallas once a month and she'd always ask to have lunch with me. Just me. Not Chase. Not the whole family. Just her thoughtful grandson. Tell me about your work, she'd say, genuinely interested in the medical software I was developing. In spring 2018, when I was 28 and Grandma Ruth was 79, she asked me something unusual during one of our lunches. Derek, your father has been managing your parents' rental properties himself for the past 2 years. Has he mentioned how that's going? Not really. Dad doesn't talk to me much about the properties. That's Chase's domain. Grandma Ruth looked troubled. Your father borrowed $50,000 from me last year. Said it was for emergency property repairs. But when I drove past those properties last month, I didn't see any obvious improvements. Maybe interior repairs? Maybe. But Derek, you're good with numbers and patterns, aren't you? That's what you do with software. Find patterns in data. Yes, that's part of it. I'd like you to look at something for me. Your parents' rental property finances. Quietly. Don't tell anyone, especially not your father. Grandma, I don't know anything about property management. You know about data. You know about finding anomalies. That's all I need. Please, sweetheart. Something feels wrong and you're the only one I trust to tell me the truth. What I found over the next 3 months made me sick with betrayal. My father had been systematically stealing from the rental properties for 3 years. Not mismanagement. Not poor business decisions. Deliberate, calculated theft. It started when Dad took over direct management from a professional property management company in 2016. He told everyone he was cutting unnecessary costs and maximizing profit margins. What he actually did was create multiple schemes to divert rental income. First, phantom tenants. Dad would report certain units as rented to tenants who didn't exist. He'd create fake lease agreements, fake tenant information, and collect rent that went directly to his personal accounts. 3 properties had phantom tenants over 3 years. Over $93,000 in completely fabricated rental income he pocketed. Second, inflated maintenance expenses. Dad would submit receipts for repairs and maintenance that were either wildly overpriced or never happened at all. I verified by contacting actual contractors. Many of the receipts were forgeries. $67,000 in fake maintenance expenses. Third, unreported rental increases. Dad had raised rents on several properties but never updated the books. He collected the higher rent from real tenants but reported the old, lower amounts. The difference went to his accounts. $41,000 over 2 years. Fourth, missing security deposits. When tenants moved out, their security deposits simply disappeared. Dad would claim damage repairs, but never produce receipts or evidence. $38,000 in stolen deposits. And finally, the most brazen scheme. Dad had convinced Mom that their rental income was lower than it actually was. He showed her doctored financial statements and told her the properties were barely breaking even. Meanwhile, he was pocketing thousands monthly while Mom worried they might need to sell properties to stay afloat. By August 2018, I documented $287,000 in theft over 3 years. I sat across from Grandma Ruth at her Dallas home with printed evidence spread across her dining table. Bank statements showing deposits to Dad's personal account that matched the stolen amounts. Fake lease agreements with information that didn't check out. Contractor statements confirming Dad had never paid them for work he claimed they'd done. Tenant interviews revealing the real rental amounts versus reported amounts. "Your son has been stealing," I said quietly. "My father has stolen $287,000 over 3 years from his own rental properties." Grandma Ruth looked at the evidence for a long time. Her hands trembled as she turned pages. Finally, she looked up at me with eyes full of sadness and determination. "Does your mother know?" "I don't know. But Dad's been telling her the properties barely make money. She's been worried about finances while he's been stealing thousands a month." "And Chase?" "Dad's been training Chase to take over. Teaching him the business. If Chase doesn't know now, he'll probably continue the same schemes when he inherits." Grandma Ruth was silent for several minutes. Then she made a decision that would change my life forever. "Your parents don't own those properties." "What?" "The 10 properties. Your parents don't own them." "I do." She paused. "I bought them. Every single one. I provided all the down payments. I paid off several of the mortgages. The properties are in my name, held in a trust. Your parents have been managing them, but they're mine." I stared at her, stunned. "I was going to transfer them to your father eventually. But not now. Not after this." She looked at me directly. "Derek, I'm going to transfer all 10 properties to you. Right now. Before I die. No will, no probate, just direct transfer. They'll be yours and your father will never touch them again." "Grandma, this will destroy the family." "The family is already destroyed. My son is a thief. My grandson Chase thinks he's entitled to wealth he never earned. Your parents have spent your entire life making you feel like a failure when you're the only one with actual integrity." She paused. "You're the only one I can trust. You're the only one who told me the truth." On September 7, 2018, we sat in an attorney's office in Dallas. Grandma Ruth executed trust documents transferring all 10 rental properties to me. The attorney filed the paperwork with the appropriate Texas counties. By the end of the week, I legally owned 10 rental properties worth approximately $4.1 million. "Don't tell anyone yet," Grandma Ruth said. "Let's see what they do. Let's see if your father confesses. Let's see if anyone shows any character. What if they never find out the properties were yours? Then they'll keep planning to inherit property they never actually owned. And when the truth comes out, you'll know exactly who they are." He squeezed my hand. "Derek, use this as a foundation. Build something real. Build a life that's yours. Promise me." I promised. What Grandma Ruth didn't know was that I was already building. My software engineering career was accelerating fast. By late 2018, I'd been recruited by a major tech startup. My salary jumped to $115,000 plus equity. By 2020, that equity was worth another $80,000. By 2022, the startup went public and my shares were worth $320,000. The 10 properties generated $17,000 monthly, $204,000 annually after expenses. I hired a professional property management company that was honest and competent. Every repair was real. Every tenant was documented. Every dollar was tracked. I lived modestly. Same North Austin apartment. Same Toyota. Same quiet life. But I was investing aggressively. Maxing out my 401k. Opening a Roth IRA. Buying index funds. Diversifying into other real estate opportunities. By November 2024, my net worth was approximately $5.3 million. The 10 properties had appreciated to $4.6 million. My tech stock and investment accounts held another $700,000. My family knew absolutely nothing. At Thanksgiving 2023, Chase announced he was being promoted at his firm. I'll be managing commercial deals worth $50 million plus. This is the big leagues, folks. Dad raised his glass. That's my boy. Building something real. Chase looked at me. Derek still writing code? Still punching the clock. Still writing code, I said quietly. Must be nice having such low ambitions, Chase said with a smirk. Some of us are building legacies. Everyone laughed. I said nothing. Grandma Ruth died peacefully in her sleep on October 3, 2024. She was 85 years old. I'd visited her the week before. She'd held my hand and said, "You're stronger than all of them. Don't let them diminish what you've built. And Derek? When they find out, don't apologize. You earned this by being honest." The funeral was large. Over 250 people. Chase gave a speech about the woman who taught me to dream big and build generational wealth. I stood in the back and said nothing. 1 week after the funeral, Dad called me. "Derek, family meeting tomorrow at the house. 10 a.m. Estate matters. You need to be there." "I'll be there." "Good. And Derek? Try to be supportive. This is Chase's time to step up." The next morning, I arrived at my parents' house in Westlake Hills exactly on time. Their living room was arranged like a boardroom. Dad at the head of the table with documents spread out. Mom next to him looking proud. Chase in an expensive suit looking like he was about to close a deal. My Aunt Julie and Uncle Tom. 2 cousins. Everyone looked eager. Expectant. Like they were about to witness Chase's coronation. Dad stood up and cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss Mom's estate and, more importantly, to discuss the future of the property portfolio she helped us build." Chase nodded seriously, playing the role of responsible heir. "As you all know," Dad continued, "our rental property portfolio has been the foundation of this family's wealth. 10 properties across Austin and surrounding areas. Current value approximately $4.1 million. Monthly income around $17,000. Uncle Tom whistled appreciatively. "Mom always wanted these properties to stay in the family," Dad said. "And after much thought, your mother and I have decided it's time to transition management to the next generation." Chase sat up straighter. Chase has been training in commercial real estate for years. He understands property values, market trends, investment strategies. He's ready to take the portfolio to the next level. Mom beamed. "We're so proud of you, Chase." Chase stood up like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. "Thanks, Dad. I've actually been developing a comprehensive plan. Over the next 5 years, we sell the older properties, reinvest in newer developments, potentially triple our revenue stream." "That's ambitious," Aunt Julie said admiringly. "That's what I do," Chase said with his trademark confidence. "I see potential where others see problems." He looked directly at me. "Not everyone has that vision. Some people are content with smaller achievements." A few people chuckled. I said nothing. "Derek," Chase continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "I know you've never been interested in real estate. You've got your little computer job. You're content being ordinary. And that's fine. We can't all be entrepreneurs." "Chase," Mom said gently, but she was smiling. "I'm just saying," Chase continued, "when you failed at sports, when you failed at business school, when you failed at basically everything Dad hoped for, you found your level. Computer coding. It's honest work. Nothing to be ashamed of." More laughter. Dad didn't correct him. Chase turned back to the group. "So here's what I'm proposing. I take over full management of all 10 properties. I implement my modernization plan. Within 3 years, this portfolio is worth $6 million minimum. That's the difference between vision and mediocrity. Everyone applauded. Chase actually bowed slightly. That's when I spoke for the first time. Dad, I said quietly, should I tell them or will you? The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Dad's face went from confident to pale in about 2 seconds. Derek, this isn't. Should I tell them that you don't own the properties? That you never owned the properties? Or would you like to explain that part? Chase laughed. What are you talking about? Of course they own. They don't. I pulled a folder from my bag. Thick, organized, professional. Grandma Ruth owned them. All 10 properties. He bought them. She provided the down payments. She paid off the mortgages. They were held in her trust. Mom and Dad were just managing them. The room exploded. That's ridiculous, Dad said, but his voice shook. Those properties are in our names. They were in Grandma Ruth's trust. You were named as property managers, not owners. There's a significant difference. I placed the folder on the table. Trust documents, dated 1992 through 2016. Every property purchase. Every down payment from Grandma Ruth's accounts. Every mortgage payment. All documented. Chase grabbed the folder and started flipping through pages. His confident smirk slowly disappeared. But that means, Uncle Tom said slowly, that means they never owned the properties they've been managing for 26 years, I said calmly. Which raises an interesting question. Where did all the rental income go? Dad stood up quickly. Derek, that's enough. Is it? Because I have some questions about that. For example, Dad, why did you report the Cedar Park duplex as rented to John Martinez for 18 months when John Martinez doesn't exist? The room went completely silent. What are you talking about? Mom asked. I opened my folder to a tab section. Phantom tenant. Dad created a fake lease agreement, fake tenant information, collected rent of $1,400 monthly for 18 months. That's $25,000 in rental income that never existed. Money that went directly to Dad's personal account. You're insane, Dad said, but he'd gone from pale to gray. Am I? How about the Round Rock property? Rented to Sarah Chin for 11 months. Sarah Chin doesn't exist either. $1,600 monthly, $17,600 total. Also went to Dad's personal account. Chase was staring at Dad. What is he talking about? Or we could discuss the maintenance expenses, I continued. The $4,700 roof repair at the South Congress property that never happened. The $6,200 foundation work at the Riverside property. I called the contractor. He never did any work there. The receipt was forged. Mom stood up. Derek, these are serious accusations. They're not accusations. They're documented facts. I pulled out another section. 3 years of financial analysis. Phantom tenants totaling $93,000. Fake maintenance expenses totaling $67,000. Unreported rent increases totaling $41,000. Missing security deposits totaling $38,000. And that $50,000 Grandma Ruth lent Dad for emergency repairs? No repairs were ever done. The money went to Dad's personal account. That's embezzlement, Uncle Tom said quietly. Yes, I agreed. That's exactly what it is. Total documented theft over 3 years. $287,000. Someone knocked on the front door. I'd been expecting this. Dad stumbled to answer it. A woman in her 50s stood there in a professional suit, carrying a briefcase. Good morning. I'm Patricia Martinez, the attorney who handled Ruth Morrison's estate. Derek asked me to attend this meeting to clarify some legal matters. She entered without waiting for permission and set her briefcase on the dining table. I understand there's been some discussion about property inheritance. I'm here to correct several significant misunderstandings. Who the hell are you? Chase demanded. I'm the attorney who managed Ruth Morrison's property trust for 32 years, Ms. Martinez said calmly. And I'm here to explain something that your father apparently never told you. The 10 rental properties you've been discussing were never his. They were Ruth Morrison's properties held in trust with your father named as property manager, not owner. Dad collapsed back into his chair. On September 7, 2018, Ms. Martinez continued. After learning of substantial financial irregularities in the property management, Mrs. Morrison executed new trust documents transferring all 10 properties directly to her grandson, Derek Morrison. These transfers were properly filed and recorded. Derek Morrison has been the legal owner of all 10 properties for 6 years, 2 months and 4 days. You could have heard a pin drop. Chase stood up so fast his chair fell over. That's impossible. Dad's been managing those properties for years. I've been training to take them over. They're ours. They were never yours, I said quietly. They were Grandma Ruth's. Now they're mine. Chase turned to Dad. You knew about this. For 6 years, you knew Derek owned the properties and you kept managing them like they were yours. I thought I could fix. Dad couldn't even form complete sentences. Fix what? I asked. Fix the $287,000 you stole? Did you think if you just kept stealing, eventually it would somehow balance out? Mom was crying now. Derek, how could you let us believe? Let you believe what, Mom? That I was a failure? You've been saying that my entire life. You watched Chase mock me just now and you smiled. You watched Dad dismiss everything I've accomplished and you nodded along. A second person entered. I'd given him a key earlier. Michael Ross, a forensic accountant I'd hired. Good morning. I'm Michael Ross, certified fraud examiner. I assisted Derek in documenting the financial irregularities in property management. I'd like to present some additional findings. He placed his own folder on the table. Even after September 2018, after Derek legally owned all properties, Mr. Morrison Sr. continued stealing. Some tenants still sent rent checks to the old management accounts Mr. Morrison controlled. Rather than forward these payments to the proper accounts, he kept them. How much? Aunt Julie asked, staring at Dad with disgust. An additional $34,000 from late 2018 through 2020, when Derek finally got all tenant information redirected. Total theft over the entire period, $321,000. Chase was pacing now, his hands in his hair. This can't be happening. I've been planning. I've been telling clients I was about to take over a $4 million portfolio. You've been lying to clients about assets you never owned and never would own, I said. How's that going to look when they find out? Ms. Martinez pulled out a document. We're prepared to offer a settlement. Mr. Morrison returns every stolen dollar, $321,000, plus interest, totaling $374,000, within 90 days. He signs a confession. He agrees to never contest the property ownership. And Derek will not file criminal charges. $374,000? Mom gasped. We don't have. You mean Dad doesn't have it, I corrected. Because Dad spent the last 6 years living beyond his means on stolen money while telling you the properties barely made a profit. Dad's head was in his hands. He was crying now, real desperate sobs. Chase turned on him. You ruined everything. Everything. I've built my entire career on the expectation. I've told everyone. You've built your entire career on entitlement, I said quietly. You assumed you'd inherit millions because you're the oldest son. Because you're tall and confident and good at football. You never earned anything, Chase. You just assumed it would be handed to you. And you, Chase shouted. You just sat back and let us believe. Let you believe what? That I was a failure? Chase, you literally called me a failure 15 minutes ago. You said I failed at sports, failed at business school, failed at everything. You said I found my level with my little computer job. I stood up and faced him directly. My little computer job pays $115,000 a year plus stock options. My net worth is $5.3 million. I own 10 rental properties worth $4.6 million. I have $700,000 in investments. I'm 29 years old and completely financially independent. Chase's mouth fell open. You, on the other hand, make $95,000 and spend like you make $300,000. Your BMW is leased. Your luxury apartment eats 50% of your income. You're drowning in credit card debt, maintaining an image of success you don't actually have. How do you know? Because I looked. Just like I looked at Dad's finances and found the theft. Just like I've been watching this family for 29 years while you all looked right through me. I turned to my parents. You spent my entire life comparing me to Chase. making me feel like I wasn't enough because I wasn't loud and confident and athletic. You dismissed my career because you didn't understand it. You excluded me from business discussions about properties I actually owned. Mom tried to speak. Derek, we never meant. Yes, you did. You meant every dismissive comment. Every comparison. Every moment you made it clear Chase was the son you wanted and I was the son you got stuck with. I picked up my folders. You have 90 days to pay back what Dad stole. Ms. Martinez will send the settlement documents. After that, I never want to hear from any of you again. Derek, please, Dad said desperately. I'm your father. You're a thief who stole from his own mother and then continued stealing from his own son. Those are the only relevant facts. Chase grabbed my arm. You can't just. This portfolio was supposed to be. I've been planning. I pulled my arm away. You've been planning to steal property I've owned for 6 years. Just like Dad taught you. The only difference is that I caught Dad and you never got the chance. I walked out of that house and never looked back. My phone exploded with calls and texts. I blocked every family member except Ms. Martinez and Michael Ross. Ms. Martinez called me that afternoon. Your father's attorney just contacted me. They want to negotiate a payment plan. No negotiation. Full restitution within 90 days, or I file criminal charges with the Travis County DA. Understood. Your brother also called. He's asking if there's any way he can still be involved in managing the properties. Absolutely not. Chase has proven he has the same relationship with ethics that Dad does. Non-existent. The next 90 days were a catastrophe I observed through updates. Week 2. Dad tried to get a home equity loan. Denied. He'd already borrowed heavily against the house for his lifestyle expenses. Week 4. Chase was fired from his firm. Someone leaked that he'd been falsely representing his financial position to clients. Professional reputation destroyed. Week 6. My parents put their West Lake Hills house on the market. The house they'd bought with down payment assistance from Grandma Ruth. They got an offer for $1.2 million. Week 10. Chase's BMW was repossessed. His luxury apartment evicted him for non-payment. Week 12. Dad scraped together $243,000 from the house sale and liquidating retirement accounts. Still $131,000 short. Day 89. They delivered $374,000. Dad had borrowed the remaining money from Uncle Tom at 12% interest. Ms. Martinez called me. It's done. Full restitution. Signed confession. The matter is closed unless they violate the agreement. Good. Derek, your father asked me to tell you something. He says he's sorry. He says he was trying to maintain a lifestyle and got in too deep. Tell him I don't care. It's been 11 months since that living room confrontation. I'm 30 years old now. The 10 properties are thriving under proper management. They now generate $19,000 monthly, $228,000 annually. The portfolio is worth approximately $5.1 million. My tech career has exploded. After our startup went public, I was recruited by a major healthcare tech company as a senior engineering director. My salary is $190,000, plus stock options worth another $150,000 annually. My net worth is approaching $6 million. I sold my modest North Austin apartment and bought a beautiful home in the hill country with panoramic views. I upgraded to a Tesla Model S. I travel internationally. I just got back from a month in Japan and South Korea. I live exactly the life I choose, designed by my choices, funded by my work. My parents sold their West Lake Hills house and moved to a small apartment in Cedar Park. They're drowning in debt. Between the restitution payment and the loan from Uncle Tom, they're paying over $4,000 monthly just in debt service. Dad is working part-time at Home Depot at age 63. Mom works at Target. Chase moved to Houston to start fresh. I heard through Michael Ross's network that he's working in used car sales. His real estate career is over. No firm will touch him with his family scandal. I received one letter from Dad 4 months ago. Derek, I know I can never make up for what I did or how we treated you. I know I stole from Mom, from you, from everyone. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. Dad. I didn't respond. Dad isn't sorry he stole. He's sorry he got caught. He's sorry he's paying for it. That's not remorse. That's consequences. I had a memorial scholarship created at UT Austin in Grandma Ruth's name for first-generation engineering students. The plaque reads, Ruth Morrison Memorial Scholarship. She saw potential others missed, believed in quiet strength and chose integrity over image. People ask if I feel guilty about my family's financial collapse. If I regret not accepting a payment plan. If I wish I'd been more forgiving. I don't. Dad didn't collapse because of me. He collapsed because he stole $321,000 over 6 years and got caught. Chase didn't lose his career because I was cruel. He lost it because he built his professional reputation on lies about assets he never owned. I didn't destroy my family. My family destroyed itself by valuing image over integrity, confidence over character, and the appearance of success over actual achievement. I just refused to keep pretending I was the failure they needed me to be. Last month, I hired my first employees for a side venture. Software that helps people detect financial fraud in property management. Turns out rental property theft is incredibly common, especially in family situations. I'm going to help other people discover what I discovered before it's too late. The company is called Morrison Property Analytics. Every line of code I write, I think of Grandma Ruth. Every fraud case we prevent, I honor her memory. Every family we help, I remember those words. You're the only one I trust to tell me the truth. She trusted me with the truth. She gave me not just 10 properties, but the gift of knowing that quiet integrity is worth more than loud confidence. That being underestimated is sometimes the greatest strategic advantage you can have. I'll never forget that. And I'll never let anyone make me feel like a failure again.